Welcome to another episode of NAC Car Culture, your home of tough muscle cars, classic cruisers and high-performance imports. Proudly brought to you by NAC Insurance, specialists in modified and high-performance cars. Mount Shop, undercar specialists. And Teng Tools, get organised. Coming up in this week's show, we check out Dan Yeoman's Beams-powered KE70 Retro Racer and drop in at Green Brothers Racing in Mount Maunganui to get a tour around Andy Duffin's RX collection. But before we do, it's time to head for Taranaki's big show, the one and only Americana. As far as car shows go, Americana is a little bit different. Where other events may focus their theme on specific years or styles of vehicle, Americana is a celebration of, well, Americana. That means anything from the good old US of A is welcome, no matter just how new or old it might be, and the lineup doesn't sit still for long, with the Taranaki Blacktop getting a good working over during the 4-day festival, with cruises to Inglewood, Opanaki and Hawera, and pretty much everywhere in between.
Celebration of American car culture. So we allow any vehicle into the event, new or old, doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's American or American themed. It's about coming and celebrate your car, enjoy other people with the same passion, and get out and see Taranaki and spend a few dollars in our community. And as you guys have witnessed, the population in Taranaki, the people just come out en masse and thoroughly enjoy the event, and that's what makes it. Take away the people, I got nothing.
Well, nothing except 600 cars. Organiser John Ray states the name of the game is quality over quantity, and 600 is deemed the magic number.
It's a 68 Charger. We got it out of the Rocky Mountains up in Colorado. Been locked up since I think 92. Was literally a one woman owner car, and so we pulled out. We wanted a black Charger, so you know, the name of the game was find the straightest car possible, just so that we could get that body perfect. So yeah, and we're pretty stoked out on how it came out. So yeah, it's just a little 318 with a 3 on the tree. It was actually a error down the production line. They weren't supposed to come out with the 3 on the tree, but it was a very highly optioned car. It was supposed to be a dealership car. They ticked all the boxes, but they didn't pick the big engine package. So so it ended up as a bit of a mistake, but quite a cool little car. So yeah.
And unlike many gentlemen of his age, the lure of new school technology wasn't going to cut it in Cam's world.
I suppose I didn't have much of a choice as well. Our family, it's just American V8s. So, but I just love, cruising and things like that. I like the big motors, no replacement for displacement kind of thing. So yeah, it's just the way that we were brought up, and we love the American cars and just never really had much interest in the Japanese stuff, to be fair. So yeah. I wasn't expecting the quality of cars that are here actually. It's a great event, and the cruises, you go through. I've actually never been to New Plymouth before, so some of these cruises are really cool, getting to see some new parts of the country. So yeah, and all the kids on the side of the road, it's a pretty special event really, yeah.
And a special event needs special vehicles. Mike's movie star car certainly had that going for it. Advertised online as a Cadillac and picked up by a local dealer, its condition started making a whole lot more sense as its history was uncovered.
The movie was shot in Shanghai, so after the movie it found its way across the Pacific to Japan. By the time it got back to New Zealand, then the story started of what is this and where is it from, and the steering was dodgy, the brakes were dodgy, it had a ply floor. I think he got a bit scared and just put it on the internet for sale, and that's when I found it. And I rang him and we had a chat, and to cut a long story short, we negotiated a price and I bought it. The movie came out in 1984, so it would have been made around 83, I would say, maybe 82, and it's on a 1974 Cadillac chassis and running gear. That's why it's so long. All the running gear is Cadillac, but everything on top of that is designed as a 1935 Urban.
And while fixing up the brakes and steering was the obvious move in getting the car shipshape for our roads, other character flaws have remained intentionally intact.
He rang me and when the chrome was down, he said, "Shall I straighten this bumper? It's all bent." And I said, no, leave it. It's part of the story. Just leave it as it is, and it's quite obvious if you look at the car that the front left-hand bumper is quite bent badly, because in the movie that's where he went up the back end of a rickshaw. Every car here, there's heaps of them, and they're all different and they're all magnificent. And every owner of these vehicles has a story just like ours to tell. A lot of passion and money and hard work and sweat, but they've got something beautiful. It's art on wheels.
Flying the flag for late model muscle was Dave and his Viper, the low-slung Serpent getting the call-up over the rest of the shed's offerings.
I just give them turns. Yeah, just something that she needed a run, so just give it a run. It's not exactly designed for New Zealand roads, but she's pretty good. I like this event. It's distance driving, and you get to go to different places. I know we've been to all these places, some of these places before, but they're always different. You get always different cars. It's a 2008 Dodge Viper, SRT10, modified after the factory. It's called, it's a Street Serpent, up around 700 horses now. Ballinger exhaust, headers, etc., etc. So she's a good 200 plus mile an hour motor car.
And while 200 miles per hour wasn't called on over the week, Dave needed little persuasion to get out and put some miles on the clock.
That's the whole appeal, is the fact we get to use the car. The plus is just looking at all the rest. But yeah, I like driving it.
And there was plenty of that to be done. Although of all the towns visited, Harbour may have stolen the show with the running of go-stop drags just off the main street. The middle of town with the sort of behaviour that would usually see court time? Nope, no further incentive required for this lot. And taking in all the sights and sounds were Americana newbies Steve and Leanne in the appropriately plated Slick 56.
Bought it in just on 5 years ago now. It's a 56 Chev, two-door post, 210. It's not a Bel Air. Everyone thinks it's a Bel Air, but yeah. We bought it in as a driver, but we promptly backed it into the shed and started pulling it apart. So it was only ever going to be a quick tidy up and start driving, but it wound up a 4-year episode of doing everything. The motor is the original block that came with the car. It's a 4-bolt 350 originally, so we've put a stroker kit, 383 stroker kit, aluminium heads, and turbo 350 gearbox. Everything's been rebuilt, top to bottom.
The more minimalistic 210 trim further enhances the Chev's slick exterior.
In each year, 55, 56, 57, there's the 150 model, which has a certain type of trim, and then the 210, which has this full-length trim, and then the Bel Air again, which has a different trim again, and carries on the paint line a bit further through the side. So, yeah, there's fair variety. Leanne, my wife, she really enjoys the car as well, so a good chance to go and hang out with her. Bunch of cool car people and get some driving in.
And Americana will be back in Taranaki in 2017, celebrating 10 years in the business. We've got a whole lot more to come on NAC car culture, like Dan's road and race ready Beams powered KE70 Corolla and Andy's Time Attack 20B RX7. You're back with NAC Car Culture, kindly brought to you by the good people at NAC Insurance, Teng Tools and Mount Shop. We've got your road and race fix covered with Dan's British Touring Car Champs inspired Corolla and Andy's RX collection coming up. But first, we drop in at Mitchell Race Extreme for this week's NAC Tech Tip.
Seats play a pretty important part, especially with side impacts and rollovers. You don't want to skimp to save yourself future bucks on a seat, because if it's not a good enough seat, it will break in a big accident. What we've got here is a Racetech 4119 seat, and it has shoulder pickup points at the back which connect onto the roll cage, plus the large aluminium brackets at the bottom. So getting those positioned and getting those solid mounts, a good solid base for that seat to bolt down is really, really important. We always build in a bit of adjustment, a few extra holes and bolt holes, so we can fine-tune the adjustment once the driver's in, because or whatever feels good in the workshop doesn't necessarily equate to being comfortable on a racetrack when you're sitting in the thing doing 8, 10, 12, 20 laps. In a road car, getting that race seat in the position, right position is going to be dictated by the pedals and steering you already have in your factory position. So your seat's going to end up basically on the factory mounts or thereabouts. Fitting a race seat into a road car is all well and good, as long as you abide by the rules set up by the LVVTA, then there should be no issues.
Right, thanks to our mates at Mount Shop, it's time now to meet this week's feature car, Dan's KE70, an unsuspecting Corolla slammed with a heap of 80s British Touring Car Championship influence.
It would be the boring sedan or the wagon or whatever that was used. It wasn't a sports car that they started with. They'd take those, slam them, and then work a 2-litre engine, and that was pretty much all they were stuck with. It's the same sort of thing. You're taking a shopping trolley from the 80s and cutting the guards right out and lowering it right down and keeping a 2-litre in it. They've got the same basic floor pan as an A86, which obviously was born and bred as a sort of more of a sports car, you know, and they are still an iconic race car in their own right. The fact that they share the same sort of suspension pickup, they've got the same wheelbase, everything, they are to a large extent very similar. And so most stuff that you can buy for an 86 will bolt into a KE70 as well. Somewhat makes it easier. There's still way too much stuff that's kind of got to be custom made to achieve what I wanted anyway.
The car you see here is actually Plan B. When a large rusty problem reared its head in the original shell, Dan's attention turned to his trusty daily driver.
I knew that it was a good clean car, it was a one-lady owner. So yeah, just went from there. I knew I had a good base at least. And yeah, it was sort of, once I stripped it back, there's only 2 little bits of rust that I found in the whole car. I've had it sandblasted right back and everything, and it was clean, so yeah, stoked. It is a good place to start. Certainly, she'd probably have a heart attack if she knew what her car looked like now, but yeah.
Getting race car form and function meant sourcing a kit off the shelf. Sounds simple, right? Well, the only problem being that none of the components were for a KE70. The ducktail spoiler, fat guards and chin spoiler would see the Corolla look the part, but all required major surgery for their new home.
It's a whole nother step, taking it from visualising what you want to actually bolting it to the car, and I've been lucky to have some guys that really know what they're doing to sort of help out along the way.
But it would be an insult to suggest the car's form is just the result of some fiberglass bolt-ons.
I think it probably just runs in the family somewhat, being a bit OCD, and also Dad being an aircraft engineer, I think sort of probably has rubbed off somewhat, attention to detail there. So yeah, things like the rear doors, it's a sedan, I wanted to keep it with 4 doors rather than weld them up, which yeah, obviously increased the amount of work hugely, having to cut I've cut nearly 2 inches out of the rear door line to be able to raise the arch up far enough to get the clearance for the travel that I wanted once the car was low. Obviously I've cut the entire gearbox tunnel out and put in a new tunnel. I'm sure most people, or at least some people, would look at it and just go, oh sweet, it's just a low Corolla with a set of bolt-ons and some wide wheels, and that's probably it. And that's fine, it's everybody's kind of different style. But yeah, there is, for me personally, I get a bit of a kick out of the fact that those little things do work, and you do get people that notice them, and generally it is people that sort of tend to have the same line of thought, and those that are into the details are the ones that tend to notice the details.
The KE handles and stops thanks to a combination of HSD and yellow speed coilovers with Willwood brake upgrades, while the transplanted Toyota 3SGE Beams 2-litre delivers a big step up over the original Toyota 4K.
You're not going anywhere fast with the 4K, so you're kind of ringing it out in second and third across there fairly safely. Yeah, huge improvement obviously. The engine tuned it NZFI and made 192 at the wheels, and that's, you know, it's more than enough for what I want as far as just having a circuit car which is reliable. I can drive to the track and home. Yeah, it's great, you know, it's fun, it's sort of, it pulls pretty well and it certainly winds out. Yeah, this is my baby. I'm never selling this car, you know, I'll have this till the end of my days pretty much. My old man's much the same with his Model A, you know, he'll have that. He's had it since he was 20. This is a very similar sort of thing, I guess. So for me, to have it specifically as a race car would have meant cutting out, you know, a lot of opportunity to sort of drive the car. It's not that I intend to use it that much on the road, but I can just put more of my slicks, my other wheels with slicks on them, and my fuel and my jack and my tools into the car, and I've already done it a few times, take it out to the track like that, thrash it all day and then drive it home again at the end of the day. You know, this is exactly what I imagined. There's very little that I'd actually change about the car now, and I'm pretty stoked with the way it's turned out. And yeah, this is almost time to just go out and enjoy it. So yeah, it's good, we're nearly there.
Want to see more cars in action like this? Jump onto themotorhood.com now and sign up for our totally free digital magazine. It's packed with the best bits from New Zealand Performance Car, NZV8 and New Zealand Classic Car magazines. Simply enter your email address and you'll get it direct to your inbox. Easy. We're not done with you yet. Time for 10 tools to send us to Mount Mauganui's Green Brothers Racing, the workshop playing host to racer Andy Duffin's rotary collection.
Yeah, I think I was about 16 or 17 when I bought my first RX2. I don't know, it's just something different about the engine. Obviously, being a rotary engine, it makes a different sound. They rev a lot harder than piston engines, and they're nice, light little Japanese cars, and I guess that appealed to me, and it always has.
While the RX2 was Andy's first step into the rotary world, it's pretty clear which shape from the Mazda production line now takes his fancy.
You really know you're driving a 70s car when you jump back in one, you know. The little blue one's got 400 horsepower and that's a lot on the street. And the white one is just such a nice car to drive on the road. It's so quiet, stock, and gets a lot of head turns, that one. Back in those days, they were sort of pretty cheap runabouts, really, and you could whack a 13B in Bridgeport and whatever you wanted in them and have a bit of fun and go and hang out with your mates and burn up a lot of petrol because everything was sort of cheap back then. I'm sort of showing my age a bit. The RX-7s were definitely the car to have back when I was in my young days, and I guess I graduated from an RX-2 into an RX-7, and they're a great little car, a really good handling little car and good fun to drive. Soon realised that the best place to do your racing was on the track. It was a lot safer, and I had some mates who were right into 2-litre sports sedan racing, and I got the bug from there. I took my car to the track and just never looked back. It's been a passion of mine since I was a young man. It becomes not an addiction, but it's definitely something that you can't get out of your system, and you just want to go faster and faster, and you know, once you catch that bug, you just can't stop, and I haven't stopped yet.
Andy's track weapon of choice has a couple less decades on the clock than the rest of the fleet. This FD RX-7 packing peripheral ported triple rotor punch.
We built it from a road car in Hamilton in his dad's garage, and we ran it in 2-litre sports sedan class, SS2000, and graduated with a bigger engine into GD2. We've won both of those classes, and then we got a call from Australia to go and race in Time Attack, which is a whole new ball game for us. It's a lot of aero, a lot of wing on the car. And it's all about one lap. You get to have one go and you get one lap and that's it. So it's like qualifying with a lot of pressure on. So that's where the car's got to now. We've been to Australia once and we're back over to Aussie in October this year. Surprisingly, underneath it's pretty much an RX-7. Body-wise, it's all fiberglass and plastic, and we've made it as light as we can. It's got a 20B engine, which is a 3-rotor, which obviously never came out factory. Makes it just over 500 horse. It's got a sequential gearbox, which is probably one of the most important things to make those cars really quick. It's naturally aspirated. We didn't go the turbo route because we like the difference, we like the sound, we like the RPM. It's a point of difference for us, so like being the underdog and trying to give it to the big boys, you know. It's got some really good gear in it and it's well prepped, so it goes really well. We rev that thing to 10,000 RPM on every gear shift. It does it all day, and it's, you know, it sounds really good. And a lot of people come up and say, I hate rotaries, I can't stand them, but man, your car sounds good. And that's a really cool feeling that it crosses over and people really like the sound and the look of the car and how it goes.
And the key to the car's success is the crew behind it, with support from the likes of Mount Mauganui's Green Brothers Racing, keeping the Seven competitive and the sport enjoyable.
I think everyone would love to be a professional race driver who drives a race car, but for the 95% of us, that's just never going to be achievable. So you've got to enjoy what you do, and it doesn't matter how much money you spend, if you're not enjoying it, what's the point in being there? And we love being at the track, you know, and that's what it's all about for us.
With the local series now wrapped up, sights now sit squarely on Sydney's World Time Attack in October. A change in the rules now opens up the option of NOS for naturally aspirated cars, something the crew are hoping will put them right up in the power rankings with the forced induction crowd. The three-rotor team aren't taking the trip just to make up the numbers.
No, we definitely don't go anything to participate. We go to win, and you know, we've built the car to the maximum that we can, and we're going to drive the wheels off it in Australia. We go there to win. We may not, but we'll definitely be giving it a good go.
That's us for this episode of NAC Car Culture. Thanks for tuning in. Coming up in next week's show, all the action on and off the track at the Foreign Rotor Jamboree from Manfield Raceway, Raj Patel's blown big block Falcon, and behind the mind that makes these, David Jeffrey's Rat Rod Workshop. See you then. NAC Car Culture was proudly brought to you by NAC Insurance, specialists in modified and high-performance cars, Mount Shop, undercar specialists, and Teng Tools. Get organised.